Today we are talking about heat presses. What is it, what can it do, and how do you choose the right one for your craft room? Hey, I'm Sarah. You're watching the Creative Ramblings podcast. I am so glad you're here. Today's topic is heat presses. I have just a few in front of me here. There are so many more. So much so that the idea of picking the right heat press for your craft room can be a little overwhelming, which is why I wanted to talk about this today. We are going to do a deep dive on what these machines can do and how do you narrow down what's out there and pick out the right one for your craft room. Before we get into that, I just want to touch on a few deals going on right now for this week, January 15th. If you want to skip the deals, just hit that next chapter. It'll skip you ahead to the heat press content. It is January. There is not a ton of really deep discounts going on because we are still just coming off of a huge fourth quarter and a holiday season, but there are some things that we need to mention. The Lockleek iCraft is a smart cutting machine that premiered in December, and it is fully available and shipping right now. The iCraft is a smart cutting machine very similar to a Cricut Explore machine. It can cut vinyl, HTV, cardstock paper, fabric. It can foil, draw, and score. It can print, then cut stickers. There's a ton of options out there. I have a couple of videos on that machine and more coming. I've really enjoyed using it, and I think it's a great budget-friendly, easy-to-use machine. Right now, you can get the iCraft for $199. That includes the machine, some starter tools and materials, and a free gift. That free gift can either be materials or a mini heat press like this. There is a discount code down in the description as well if you want to take a look at the new iCraft. I do want to mention HTV Ront because they make two of these heat presses that are up here right now, and they make a lot of heat presses that I own. They are running some deals right now on bundles. Bundles are always a great way to go when you're shopping for a new machine. So if you purchased this one, for example, instead of just getting the standalone machine, they're going to give you tools, materials, and accessories to go with it at a really great discount. Right now they have bundles on all of their heat presses. So if you find out at the end of this video that HTV Ront is the manufacturer you want to go with, and they have the machine you want, take a look at their bundles. You're going to get a great deal. And you'll have everything you need to get started right away. Finally, let's just touch on Creative Fabrica. Creative Fabrica is a graphics website that I use. There is an annual membership. It's $47, and you have access to all of their designs and fonts and studio features with a commercial license. So one of the things I've been using it for, in addition to just downloading graphics I really like, is within their studio, they have a background remover for images. And I have been using that to then go laser engrave photos. So Creative Fabrica, great place if you're looking for some new and interesting graphics to use within your work. I do have an Amazon storefront with all of my favorite supplies, and I'm updating that constantly. I also send out a crafty newsletter every Thursday with a fun topic to talk about, new release on machines, and all the relevant deals. You can sign up for that down in the description. Let's get into our main topic for today, and that is heat presses. So let's start really basic. These are all heat presses right here. They're all just different size and shapes, but what is a heat press? So this is a machine that uses heat and pressure to transfer a design to a blank. That blank could be a t-shirt, like something that I'm wearing here. It could be a mouse pad, a tote bag, or a wood sign. These heat presses work with all kinds of different materials like HTV or iron-on vinyl that you have cut out with your smart cutting machine. They work with sublimation and DTF transfers. I have done previous episodes on both sublimation and DTF if you want to learn more about those. If you think those are techniques that you want to get into, you're going to need a heat press. So you can combine the information that you're learning here today with those other episodes and hopefully make really good, well-informed buying decisions. There are a lot of different heat presses. Today we are focusing on flat presses. So all of these presses have flat bottoms to them. The other type of presses you might come into are something like a tumbler press that is round and it applies heat and pressure to cylinder items like a tumbler or a mug. You can also get a hat press, which is a curved surface that applies pressure to a hat and puts HTV on there. So we are not going to look at those specialty presses or ovens or other type of heat sources. We are just going to look at flat presses. These particular presses are great for t-shirts or any kind of fabric you can lay flat. So a t-shirt, a tote bag, an apron, anything you can lay flat. They're also going to work for sublimation blanks, whether they're hard or soft. So a soft mouse pad or a hard puzzle. They can also work for all those different materials that we talked about earlier. So you're going to have your flat t-shirt, you're going to have your flat apron, your flat puzzle, and then you can use HTV, iron-on, sublimation, or DTF transfers. So let's start small and work our way up from there. These two in front of me right here are examples of a mini heat press. This is the smallest one that I have. This is the original Easy Press from Cricut. And it is handheld. You hold it in your hand just like this. It has a cord that plugs in. It has a smooth, even heating plate here that's about 3 inches by 2 inches wide. It has a very easy to use button on here with just 3 settings. If I push the button, I turn it on and I can go low, medium, or high. It also comes with this safe little heat-proof base. So when I set it down, I'm not going to heat up my counter underneath it. Most companies make a basic one like this. So Cricut makes one, HTV Ront makes one. If you go to Amazon and you search for mini heat press, there are going to be a ton of random brands that pop up that sell this. They're really easy to get your hands on. I like these 2 brands right here, but just look at the reviews and look at the features. Make sure you're getting what you need. This particular one is the newest one from HTV Ront, a much bigger heat plate, so still a mini, but a bigger heat plate. It actually has a little curved surface on the back here, so you could use this for a hat or a mug or something like that. There's also a few more buttons on this one and a screen. Still has a cord, but if I were to plug this in, it's going to tell me the temperature, and I can set it to a precise temperature. Whereas this mini is just low, medium, high. This I can set to specifically 375 degrees. This one can get just a little bit hotter than this one too. I can also set a time on here, which will count down the time for me. So you can be a little more precise with something big like this. Regardless of which one you choose, these mini presses are great for small projects. I use them when I'm creating t-shirts, but the image is small. So if I'm just putting something on a corner pocket or maybe on a sleeve, these are fantastic for small HTV projects. They are also good for maybe putting some HTV on the side of a shoe or even a hat. You don't necessarily need the hat press when you're doing really simple designs. These will work really good for that. I also use these for pressing hems if I am hemming a pair of pants or if I'm doing a simple sewing project. This is great to heat up and just press my hems before sewing them. I also use these for iron-on patches, like for Girl Scout vests. They're really, really great to have on hand. These start at about $30. So it's a really easy entry point if you're doing small crafts and you have some other household things you might want to use it for. This is a great place to get started. They do go up to $75, maybe $100, but really if you shop sales in bundles like I talked about before, you can get one of these for about $30. The next step up would be a handheld press like this one here. So this is a Cricut Easy Press and it's a 9x9 Easy Press. So if we take a look at what we go up from, we start with this and then we move up to this machine here. So a lot of the same features. It is handheld. It does have a handle that I can hang onto it with. really smooth, flat base that's going to give even pressure, whether I'm at the corner or at the middle, even pressure and even heat. Has a nice base to set it on, so I'm not damaging my work surface. All of these handheld presses, no matter what company you get them from, they're all going to have some type of a screen, which is a nice step up from most of these easy mini presses. When I turn it on, I'm going to be able to set the time and temperature. If you are working with HTV or sublimation or DTF or a certain material, the manufacturer is going to give you some recommendations for the temperature your heat press should be at and the time it should be pressed for. You really want to follow those directions to get the best result for your product. So having a little screen here and being able to easily set the time and temperature is really, really helpful. Then when I'm ready to press, I would just take this off, set it on my t-shirt, push the start button, and I'm able to push down really hard if I need some pressure, or I'm able to just kind of watch it or just hold it gently. This is a 9x9 heat press from Cricut. I have seen these go up to like 12x10 or even 12x12. I think I can get one that big. They can go fairly large. The larger they are, the heavier that they are. I really like that they have the screen on top here. These are really good for doing t-shirts. This is about the size as a regular graphic that you're going to put on your t-shirt. It's great for tote bags or anything larger than what you're going to use this tiny mini press for. I do like that I can put this directly on a t-shirt and not have to move it around. You can do a larger design with a mini press, but you do have to move it back and forth to get all of the corners. With a handheld press like this, there's no moving it around. So now let's talk about what I'm going to call a standard press. And I'm just going to use this one as an example here, mainly because it fits on my table. Some of the other ones I have are really big and not super portable. So this we're going to call a standard press. This is actually the manual heat press from HTV Runt. When you get into standard presses like this, you also encompass some commercial presses. Presses that are meant to do hundreds of t-shirts a day, keep their heat consistent and even for hours on end, and just press over and over again. Those commercial presses can run $1,000 or more. In today's episode, we're really just going to focus on items that you're going to have in your craft room. These will absolutely work for a small business, but they're not meant to run on like factory level pressing. These kind of home standard presses are usually really sleek. They look nice. They're going to look great sitting on your craft table next to your Cricut or whatever machine that you're using. So this manual heat press has kind of what I call a clamshell operation. So it closes down and opens up. Some presses, when you open it, will pop open all the way so you can put your shirt in. This particular one swings out. This is just a foam mat here in a hard metal base. The heat plate is actually underneath here. So this is the part that heats up. You would put your shirt on, put your HTV on, slide this back over, and clamp it down so it can heat up. This particular heat press is a 15x15 square. For most standard presses that you can use in your craft room, somewhere around 15 inches is pretty standard. Some are 12x15, some are 15x15 square, but they're going to press just about any kind of t-shirt or sweatshirt that you're doing without having to move it around, like with some of these smaller ones. Temperatures are going to go up to at least 400 degrees, maybe a little bit more. Most of these are going to have some type of a screen. This particular one has like a corded screen that comes with it. So once I close it, I can set it to a very precise temperature, and then I can set the timer as well. It does plug in, just has a cord on the back here. It plugs right into the wall. What I like about a manual heat press like this compared to the handheld one is I can set my time and temperature. I can place my t-shirt on there, close it up. I can move over and continue to weed and place designs on my next shirt. When it beeps, I pull it up, move it over, take my shirt off, put the next one on. It frees up my hands during a project to continue to work on other things. The next type of press in this category is still a standard press, but it's an auto press. My auto press is not on the table here, but I own a couple of them and I do have detailed videos on them. The difference with an auto press is there's going to be a screen like this, but built into the press. I can still set the time and the temperature. I can place my t-shirt on there, but when I push the start button, it closes automatically. It presses everything for me, and when it's done, it's going to open automatically. It has all of the other same features as most manual presses. It just kind of does that open and close work for you, allowing you to do even more work, and you can kind of set and forget your auto press. So Cricut makes one, HTV Runt makes one, a lot of other companies make one, where you can just really kind of pump out that assembly line work while your auto press is doing the work for you. On these are great for HTV. You can use them for sublimation and DTF as well. When you are pressing sublimation designs onto a shirt, there's some specific pressure requirements needed. On a manual press like this and a lot of other manual presses, there is a button or a knob back here that you adjust to adjust the pressure. So you can have a very loose pressure or a very tight pressure. That is really nice to have when you're doing sublimation. A mini press doesn't really have pressure. It's just how hard you hold it with your hand. The handheld press like this, there is one from HTV Runt that if you push down on it with your hands, it has a pressure sensor in the corner and it'll tell you how hard you're pushing. So you could do some sublimation like that. With a manual press like this, you just adjust this knob in the back. With an auto press from Cricut or HTV Runt, there is a setting on the screen that you can set to a very specific pressure. So you are getting perfect pressure for your sublimation projects. Another honorable mention here, this is the xTool heat press. xTool makes lasers. This came out when the M1 Ultra came out. So it looks like a manual heat press, a lot like this. It swings open, you place your shirt on it, you bring it in, and you close it down. There is a pressure knob in the back. But what's cool about this, let's see if I can do it from this angle, is that this detaches and becomes a handheld press. So I can move this off to the side. I have this handheld press, and then I have the pressing mat too. So there's a couple different ways you can use this. Let's see if we can get it back in here. I don't know of another company that makes one quite like this, that combines the handheld with the manual press too, as all in one. It's just kind of a neat feature. So we covered the different types of heat presses that you can use in your craft room. We're gonna again leave out those commercial presses, but these are all the different types of flat presses. So a question you might be asking yourself, how is this different from an iron? I have an iron in my laundry room, can't I just use that? For most things, sure, you can use an iron. I have absolutely used an iron for HTV. My iron is kind of old. Not all irons have a temperature setting. They're gonna have a setting more like the Easy Press Mini, where it's just maybe a low, medium, high, or they're gonna tell you it's for wool or cotton or linen. Some irons have a steam function where you can put water into it, and you definitely don't wanna do that with any of these heat presses when working with HTV. I know my iron kind of always has some water in it, and I don't want to then come use that for these projects. Not all irons have the best even heat on their plates. These presses are built to have even heat from the very tip to the bottom and all the corners, so every part of your design is pressing perfectly. I also like that all of these don't they're just flat on the bottom. So I mentioned steam earlier. You're usually going to have little holes in your iron where the steam comes out that prevents you from getting the most even heat. So these are perfectly flat. Let's talk a little bit more about price. I touched on it a bit, but I want to give you that range one more time. So we're not looking at commercial items. We're looking at flat heat presses that you can use at home in your craft room. These mini presses you can get for as low as $30, probably up to about $100, but really you don't need to spend that much. I would watch for sales or look for those bundles like I mentioned with HTV Runt. You're going to get really good deals on these minis. These standard clamshell presses like this, I have seen the manual press standalone, this one right here, as low as $129. As you get more features in them, so if they are automatic pressing, if they have time and temperature and pressure controls, they can go all the way up to $1,000. The Cricut Auto Press retails for $9.99. A really good in-between press that has what I think all the bells and whistles. So time, temperature, pressure, and a nice big 15 by 15 heat plate is the Auto Heat Press 2 from HTV Runt. That's about $350. These handheld presses right here, again, probably up to $200, but you can get these for closer to $100, sometimes even less. I think HTV Runt has a 9x9 or a 10x10 for about $75. So a big price range. When you are choosing a heat press, so you're trying to figure out which one of these is right for you, price is going to be a big factor in what you get. So let's talk a little bit. How do you figure out which one of these is right for you? The first thing you want to do is figure out what you want to make. If you make a lot of small designs, maybe you make small fabric gift bags, you like to put decals on the corner of a shirt or a hat, an easy press is a great place to start. These little minis are going to do all kinds of work for you. It's not super easy to do a t-shirt with this, like a big graphic, but it can be done. If you are looking to make larger items like t-shirts, but you don't make a ton of them, maybe you just make them here and there, you're not running a business, you're just doing this for yourself, your family, and friends, these handheld presses are a great option. Again, you can get one for under $100, nice big heat plate, they can do a little bit of everything. If you make t-shirts, tote bags, you dabble in sublimation, maybe you've ordered some DTF transfers, you're probably going to want to invest in some type of a manual or auto heat press. The price difference is not huge between the handheld and the manual. So again, if you can get this for about $100 and this for $130, I definitely recommend this one. It allows you to press something and walk away for a minute and then come back to it. It just gets you going a little bit faster. The auto press, the function that kind of does it all for you, allows you to just multitask even more. Now, one thing that I've seen HTV Runt specifically do is when you buy a manual or auto press, you can get the mini as a free gift. So that kind of covers the best of everything. I use my minis all the time for all kinds of things. So this is a great thing to have around. But if you are doing a lot of different t-shirts, sublimation, DTF, invest in one of these larger presses. The other thing we want to talk about is accessories that you are going to need when using a heat press. There's not a ton out there. When you buy your press, you kind of already have everything you need. When using a press, like the handheld or these minis, if I were to put my t-shirt right on the table here and then start pressing, I can damage the table that's underneath it. So I'm going to need a heat-proof pad to go underneath. So these pads right here that are on the manual press, these come separate. You can purchase them from any company that sells a heat press. They're not that expensive, but you need something to put under your t-shirt before you're pressing. You can also use a towel. When I was first getting started with heat presses, I just put a thick towel down and then put this on top. What's nice about these mats is they're a really soft, even surface where towels can be a little bit bumpy and a little bit uneven. The next thing you want is a protective sheet. So if I put my t-shirt on here, it's got some HTV on it and I'm ready to press. I always like to cover it with a piece of Teflon. What this does is just protects my fabric from this direct heat here, just keeps it looking really nice. If you were doing a layered design where I do one color of HTV on a shirt, then I peel off the paper on the back and then put another color down, you definitely want to put Teflon over that, because if you expose that raw HTV to the heat plate on here, you're going to melt it and it's going to stick to here and it's just going to be a big mess. So a protective sheet like Teflon or parchment paper is going to be really, really handy. Every time you order a press from HTV Ront, like these big presses, you get a sheet of Teflon. You can also buy them separately, or you can get a roll of parchment paper from the grocery store. The next thing you might want to consider having is heat-proof tape. I don't use this when I am doing HTV or iron-on vinyl, but if I am putting sublimation design onto an ornament or a mouse pad, or even sometimes a t-shirt, I need to tape the design into place so it stays put. You cannot tape it with regular tape, it will melt. So heat-proof tape, just a roll of that, is good to have on hand. The final little neat thing to have is called a cooling block. So when you press HTV onto a shirt, a lot of times that is cold peel, which means you have to let the shirt and the material cool before you pull off the backing. A cooling block is kind of like a stone that you run over the shirt and just speeds up the cooling process so you can peel it off quicker. So if you are pressed for time, a $10 cooling block is a nice little addition to have. We talked about a lot of different heat presses, and hopefully it gave you a good idea as to what each one can do, and maybe you're already thinking which one is going to work right for you. Here's just a few more things to think about. Think about the projects that you're going to be making. If you are only making small projects, maybe the mini is the way to go. If you are doing t-shirts or something larger, the handheld press or the large clamshell might be better for you. If you are doing anything with sublimation, a manual or auto press is definitely recommended so you can get the right pressure. And you can walk away for the time it takes to sublimate the items. All of these presses that we've talked about today, I have individual videos talking about them in depth. I also have comparison videos comparing different models to each other, different brands to each other. So if you see something that you like and you want to learn more, take a look at those individual videos. Hopefully that can help you make a decision. I've also linked all of these presses down below, and if there are deals going on or discount codes to be had, they are in the description. I hope you learned something today. I hope you took something away from this. If you like this podcast and you want to hear more, I am here every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central. So hit that subscribe button and you will be notified when my next video goes up. If you're interested in that craft newsletter with lots of deals, it goes out every Thursday morning. You can subscribe to that in the description as well. And as always, I am looking at having guests on this show. I've got some good stuff lined up coming up later this winter, but if you think you would be an interesting guest, if you have a craft niche or topic you want to talk about, let me know. I'd love to chat with you. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.